I'm so excited you decided to join me here in my studio today. My name is Kaylee. I paint wet on wet landscape oil paintings, and today I'm going to paint a wonderful mountain scene, kind of like we're high up in looking across a meadow at another mountain range and some wildflowers. I know, really original. This is kind of what we did last week, but there are going to be some different flowers, a different mountain range, and a bunch of different colors. So stay tuned again till the end for the surprise flowers that are just going to pop up out of nowhere. It's going to be really fun. And this might be my last painting in a series of Colorado paintings that I'm doing for a commission. So I really hope this goes well, and I hope you all also enjoy it with me. Like usual, there'll probably be a few struggles, and we'll struggle through it all together. If you'd like to paint along with me, be sure to check the description below for the paint list. I'll have an entire paint list there. There's also some links to just show you a couple places where you can purchase them from. I just buy the big tubes of paint. That way I can use it for a long period of time and I don't have to think about purchasing more paint, because that's like the worst thing to be about into a painting and then you realize you don't have the color that you want. It's super upsetting. So I always try to have big tubes of paint on hand. And now I'm digressing a lot. So let's just jump right into the painting here. Let's get the palette going. Boop. Wait, there it is. Okay. Now, let's start with the sky. Our sun is going to be coming from the right-hand side today. Let's pick up a small brush. I like just a 1-inch brush. It works really well. Get our sky color in. I'm just going to use some phthalo blue and titanium white. And we already have a very thin, even coat of liquid white on the canvas, so that's going to help us blend so we're not using just straight phthalo blue. This painting could totally be done in acrylic paints if that's what kind of paints that you like to use. Just think about it. I'm using a liquid medium that has white in it on the background. So if you were just using the straight colors, you have to remember to mix in some white with it. But you could totally do these scenes in either oil or acrylics. I really like the wet on wet oil process. It's so fun. So that's why I'm always using my oil paints. And it's also how I learned. And I'm still, I guess, learning. I've only been painting for 4 years, so I'm still learning, just like all of you. I'm just lightly getting in this sky color. I want it to kind of fade down as we get into the horizon here, which we're going to have a higher line up here with the mountain range, so we're not going to do too much more. Maybe just bring it down a touch. There's always a little bit of haziness toward the base of the mountain. All right, now let's do a little bit of this color since we're gonna need it down below. This helps us to harmonize our painting and just make some of the next stages when we get down here easier, so we don't have to come back and do all of this. Starting from the outside in, there's not going to be any water necessarily, maybe a tiny bit of spring melt up here. Summer, spring. High up in the mountain there'll be snow for a really long time into June and July here in the Rocky Mountains, so there'll probably be a little bit of snow in this scene, even though we're going to have some wildflowers, just as it is pretty realistic to the time of year. The sun is warm, but it's just not up very long on some of these areas. So the flowers get really excited, but they can still be kind of cold. All right, a little bit of blue. We can work that up a little bit higher. All right, let's just take a blending brush, make sure that's nice and clean, and we'll just start and just soften this area. Just want to make sure all of our brush strokes are out and it's just nice and smooth sky today. No clouds. Not yet, anyway. Maybe it's still early. The sun is just coming up and starting to shine on everything and warm it all up. When we take the blending brush to the whole canvas like this, we're just making sure that there's not like really heavy parts of paint. It can be nice and dark, but you want the consistency to be pretty similar across the whole thing. And then that way you are always working with a reliable surface. It's easier to layer on in the future. Nice and smooth, no brush marks. Now let's move on to our mountain. We're gonna have a little bit of a distant mountain. So we're going to put some titanium white in there, alizarin crimson and phthalo blue, just a touch of Van Dyke brown, a little bit more blue. I did too much Van Dyke brown there, but that's okay. Here we go. Marble that. And then we're going to put a nice small, let's see, mountain kind of out in this area. And let's do something like this, and maybe like this. We want to make sure that the top of the mountain is nice and crisp. And the rest of it we're going to kind of soften out. You just push that knife right into the canvas. I'm using my 1-inch brush because it's a little smaller. I'm just going to tap the base of this. And I wanted to add a little bit of blue hue. So it's perfect. Now we'll take our big blending brush and soften from the bottom up to get out those brush strokes. This gives us a little bit of color to work with, to just move this mountain around, and we'll be able to have some nice distant hills out there without really trying very hard. You just get a little bit of color dancing out there and it leaves a real nice impression. Now I'm just lifting up in the direction of the mountain very lightly to get out all the brush strokes. Then let's mix up a highlight color. We'll use this same mountain mixture in with some titanium white, and let's get a nice fresh bit with titanium white and bright red. That's too much bright red, so we get more titanium white. Now we can take just a touch of this color and marble it with our other color, and we'll use our medium color first. This mountain is really far away, so we don't really need to have too many details on it. Otherwise, we're going to bring it closer by adding more details. And since we want it to appear to be further away, we need to have less detail. Now we've got our highlights. Let's mix up a little shadow color, take the same mountain mixture, marble that in with some more blue and titanium white, cut off a little roll of paint and just dance in a little bit of this on the back sides. Now, we're going to take our 2-inch brush and lift. So careful, very light, lift. Now we can come in with our nice and bright highlight color, and we'll just dance in a tiny bit of that in a couple areas. Something like that. We can even take our palette knife and kind of push up into this highlight color and kind of pull just the tiniest touch of that back into our shadow side, and it just brings it together. It's a tiny, tiny little thing, and you're like, that's totally not going to make a difference, but it does. If you stand back and look at it, it makes a really big difference to bring those colors together. And the way that the sun is going to be kind of reflecting the light over and kind of bouncing off these mountains that still have snow on them, they light up in really fun ways, so you can kind of get away with, you know, fudging it a little bit if you wanted to. But it's very realistic. There it is. Okay, now we're going to work on the next bit of mountain here. It is a little bit closer, so let's just take our mountain mixture that we made and our shadow color. We'll just move those over. And then we're going to mix up a new mountain mixture. Same colors. Let's just mix that all up. We're looking for a nice dark blue. And I'll leave it just slightly marbled instead of over mixing it. Then we'll take our mountain mixture and we're just going to marble that right in. Now, we just cut off a little roll of this paint, and this is going to be our mountain mixture that we're going to work with. It's got all of the colors that we were using and some titanium white and just like a little bit of variety, so it works really well. Okay, so we've got a nice big range here, and I'm trying to go off of my little sketch here that I have. It's right here. I know it's not that good. This is why I don't show you guys, because they're kind of lame, but that's what I'm looking at over here. So I want to get the mountain range right, and this is kind of a nice big triangle here. Okay, now we've got another one, another peak, and right here. It comes down and sort of meets up with this guy. We're going to have a nice bowl kind of in this area. I think I'm going to move this over a little bit. Something like that. That looks better. Okay, now there's going to be one last little bit over here that we might not see a bunch of, but we'll just put in, kind of bring them together like this, just to give us a reminder that these mountains just keep on going. Love it. Nice, big, powerful mountain range. Kind of puts things into perspective for you, you know? Maybe your challenges can seem a little smaller after realizing how big some of these mountains are. You're like, oh Man, I'm just this tiny little person in this huge universe. Okay, let's mist out the bottom of that with our big 2-inch brush. I'm always trying to angle my brush to keep in line with this mountain as much as I can. Just putting kind of the top corner of the brush in where we're softening it. Definitely works better than just coming up here and starting to tap, because you're going to pick up a bunch of color and then it makes it harder to soften it. So start on the bottom and work your way up into the paint. And then we'll just soften this up, kind of hitting on these back slopes over here. We've got a nice little bowl here, a little bowl here. Okay, let's do just a touch more work on this here. Kind of a little bit less of a peak, just kind of like a roll in there. And then we're gonna have a little bit of a mound there. Let's just leave it at that for now. Today I had some fresh strawberries from the garden, and I made a mango or a melon matcha. So good. There's so many different ways you can make matcha as like tea that you drink just on its own, and I really like that. But in the summertime, I like to just add stuff to it like it's in a smoothie. So anyway, on to the painting. I'm just blabbering away now. Let's just see what that does for us. We're gonna go into, let's add some Van Dyke Brown and Dark Sienna. Just a touch of those and a tiny bit of yellow ochre. Let's just get a little brown. And then we'll marble that into our highlight color here. Let's see what we made here. A little bit more then. There we go, and some titanium white. Okay, cut off a roll of that. I think it just needs, there we go, a touch of our mountain mixture. Now, we're gonna work on, this mountain's gonna be kind of in the shadow, like it's further away down this gully here. So we don't need to pay too much attention to it. So we'll just do a little bit over here and kind of set him out there. Then we're gonna come over here and bring down a nice roll of paint this way. Nice big area. Big slope there. And we've got some little duders back here that are just going to be dancing, but they're kind of in the shadow of this big one here. And then we need a little from this one, kind of coming down. It's going to go into this little gully that comes back up into this. And then this one, nice and strong. And it kind of forks off here a few times into some different little areas. You just put them all in there. I really like to stand back and get a look at what this looks like from further away. So sometimes I look at where I'm looking right now, which is one of my screens. So I can look at one of my screens here. Sometimes I look at this screen here. And then I forget and think, oh no, I need to look at you guys. So then I look at my camera right here. So I'm the only one in the studio right now. I'm the only one in the house right now. And I'm doing it all here. So I record all this all by myself. I edit it all by myself. And I had to teach myself how to do all that. Good stuff. Okay. Let's do this one. I want to do this big kind of snowy there. Nice and kind of pull some of that down now. And then we got another one right here. That's what we're gonna notice. Something like that. Maybe back here. And we can just pull down some of that paint just to give us an idea of these other sides. And you're just going to be mixing with this dark blue anyway, so it's okay. Just bring that paint together on the canvas. It's wet and you can move it. Now, let's bring this one, kind of bring it down. I want this ridge to be all the way down here, catching in some light, something like that. And then let's build in a little bit of our shadow color. We just have some mixture over here, marble in some of our mountain mixture. Let's bring some shadows down. Then we've got some shadows in here. Maybe put a little bit more titanium white in there. There's going to be a nice big snow bowl right here, kind of between these two. It could be a glacier. I know there's a few in Colorado. But just a big snow patch that just hasn't melted yet. Right in here. We just use a brighter titanium white with some phthalo blue. And I really like a little bit of Van Dyke brown, just to get a little bit of that kind of muddy effect. And back to our other shadow color, not this bright snowy color. Let me kind of bring the rest of this together. Over here. Now, let's just work in a couple places where we need to have some more shadows. We just can kind of throw in a little bit here and there. Just lightly bring those together. Maybe right in this area we'll have just a nice little bit more, some shadows. And then we will come back with another highlight color. Let's do some titanium white with our muddy color that we've already done. Let's grab some more titanium white. Just a touch of bright red and some some yellow ochre. And then we've got our little brown mixture here. Just marble those colors together. We want to have a nice marbled bright color here for our morning sun up in this high alpine ridge. I think a little bit more yellow in that. I don't want it to be super snowy, but there's definitely going to be some left up in here. All right, nice bright color. Maybe over here. Don't want to forget about this one. All the way around here. Just a little touch here. Now let's see if we can bring this one over here. Maybe we have some snow left out in that one too. Maybe right here. We've just got a big pile of that. It might just kind of move its way down this little gully here. What do you think about that? Kind of get some of that in there. Now let's soften some of this, because we're gonna have it be nice and misty down here. All right, just push that mountain nicely back. I want to add just a pop of color right over just some Indian yellow and our highlight color that we were using. I think this one needs just a touch of sun on him. way out here. There we go. Now we're going to take the fan brush and go into our mixture, our mountain mixture here. Just grab a touch of that, and then we're going to go into kind of our greens and yellows. Just a light bit of that. And we'll get just a little hint of green. Maybe right here. And it's kind of going up into our rocks up here. Just enough that we're going to see a tiny bit of it there. Maybe just a touch darker now. Just a tiny bit in there, and then I'm thinking a little bit like right over here. Just a tiny bit. Little bit of an idea. And then we just tap in that same direction. Let's mix up a nice dark color. I like where the mountain is. I like what we're doing there. I don't want to spend too much time trying to make everything perfect in the background, because it doesn't matter. We're going to put some flowers in the foreground, and so we want this background to have detail that we can see and, pay attention to and kind of wander the eye. But we still want the main focus to be the flowers. So let's get to it. I'm mixing up a really dark color, a decent amount of that paint. I have all of my darks: alizarin crimson, phthalo blue, sap green, Van Dyke brown, and a little bit of midnight black. Mix that right on the brush. Give it a wiggle through the paint, and then you can pull it flat, and then you get a nice fine point. Can you see? That's really hard to do. Okay. Now, these trees are really high up in the Alpine, and they live rough lives. So they're kind of haggard. We'll put some in here and just make them nice and skinny ones. They work hard out here. The wind is hard and the sun is harsh. It's tough. But they still have friends. Yeah, it's getting kind of toasty out, so I thought I'd have a tasty, cool beverage, and it tickles my throat. So maybe I need a hot tea. Does anybody ever feel like that sometimes when they want something cool but don't need it? I'm just kind of building this little hill. Right now we're going to be on this next level, and this one is kind of over the edge, so we're looking across, and then it's going to go dip down and into a valley and then up again into these mountains. So we're standing across. These trees are going down. Maybe we'll put in a couple more here. And then they kind of just start to go down the hill again over here. Let's do like that. A little bit more dark here. And then we'll fill in our trees. We kind of try and work from the one in the back forward, but we're not doing highlights yet, so it doesn't matter quite as much. And the hill will kind of be somewhere in that area. Let's fill these ones in a little bit. These ones are kind of up on a mound. Maybe it kind of, the mound kind of comes down like this. And then kind of like this. Let's see, I think I want another hill right here. It's kind of not quite according to that plan, but that's the way it looks. This way, shadow, and we're gonna have some water drainage kind of right in here. Then more hill, kind of this way. And then we're gonna have like some dark here where we're getting into a little section of snow. This is gonna be kind of like a melted snow out here. And then we need some shadows here. What do we think? I like that. Okay, let's do just some little minor details here, kind of spice up that tree line so it's not all one level, and you can just kind of pop in one or two. And then we need to finish these guys. Look, I'm getting so excited. I'm just getting ahead of myself already. It happens, but we're slowing down. Let's just take a second and finish these trees here. And I think this hill is going to kind of come across this way. There we go. Now we need some trees, yellow ochre, Van Dyke brown, dark sienna, and a touch of bright red. All the fun bark colors. The sun is coming from the right, so let's try and remember this, Kaylee. Just get a few little stumps in here. They might not have a bunch of branches going on, but they're still strong. They've got to be to live up here. We'll put those, make sure these go all the way through the tree. This guy we forgot. Maybe put one right back here. Then before I put on the highlight, sometimes I like to scrape out a few branches. And you can go into some of the paint of the trunk that you just put on and pull a tiny bit of that out. Be sure not to pull them all in the same direction. But if you get some tiny little scrapes, you'll pull off paint and it'll just look like you tried so hard to put in a lot of little details, but we really don't have to stress too much about it. I don't want to say that they're easy, but you have to remember to do it. But if you remember to do it, it works pretty well. Now, today I want to do a color that we don't do very often because I don't always use cadmium yellow, but we're going to do midnight black and cadmium yellow. Such a perfect green color, especially for springtime. Let's do that. Midnight black and cadmium yellow. That's it. We're making a nice kind of, it dulls out the green a little, the yellow, but it just makes such a perfect color. I really love it. We can add just a touch of sap green, oops, if we want to. But the yellow and midnight black make just such a great color that I love to use on these pine trees. We'll go on our right hand side, working back to front. Let's do this one first. Popping on some highlights on these trees out here. They're just barely hitting in the sun. These ones we're gonna do something brighter after. So we'll start with this, get a little bit of color, pop that in all the way down. We can reload if you need to. I'm gonna get a little bit more yellow now. All the way. Now, clean off the brush just a touch. Cadmium yellow. Cadmium yellow. Indian yellow. Oh, nice. Now we need to thin it. I'm just going to use my brush wash. Perfect. Perfect. You know, a little bit of liquid white also is going to brighten up this color, and I just want this to be poppin'. So a little bit of liquid white as well. It's really, really thin. We got to be very careful because it's going to want to pick up paint too. We don't want to mess it up. Just touch a little down as the sun is going to be popping and hitting these. Just a little here. Maybe right on the top. A touch. We just need a touch. Now there's a couple out here. Let's go back to our slightly darker color. We just mix a little bit of that in and just tap on a couple of these out here as they kind of tickle their way down into the shadows over there. Now we'll lay out our land with our 2-inch brush. Just to tap. All right, now let's just muddy. We're not having reflections here. This is a snow line, but let's get it muddy with our color here by just pulling it down and then softening it a little bit. This is just gonna help harmonize the colors underneath our snow when we put that in a little bit. Now we need to do a little bit of grass over here. And I want to use some of this midnight black and cadmium yellow. We'll add a touch of sap green into that too. Play with that nice, fun yellows. That's good stuff. Now let's do this like a little mound right here that then comes up here. And maybe just kind of goes down like that. Then we can take our 2-inch brush and just soften it. Then we come back and just add in a few little details, some shrubs or just a couple bushes. Maybe we'll go a little darker now. Add some midnight black and sap green. A little darker here. Then we're just gonna kind of come down on this other little hill here and we'll put a little shadow there. Something like that. Come back with some cad yellow, thin it down if you need to, and then we just pop in our little highlights here. This out here with just some light colors. Then I think let's do midnight black, sap green, same brush. We're just putting in some more grasses back here and shrubs. And you've got a nice little mound here. Maybe we'll have some dark back there. Nice and dark. Then we're gonna have some more highlights over here, but we still need some more shadows coming in. Something like this, maybe a little bit more. Now, cad yellow. Maybe some sap green. And we're just going to thin that a touch. Bring it right down. I'm going to get just a touch of my brush wash to thin it down. And we're just bringing these hills around, starting with a nice neutral pop of green, yellows. I don't know if this is actually the right word to say neutral, but these are fun, just simple grass. I don't know what I'm thinking right now. I'm not really thinking I'm painting. I think this is going to be a little bit more in the shadow, kind of down here, just a touch, but we'll bring this around something like that. And then I want to bring a touch of cad yellow, maybe some Indian yellow right here. That's nice. A little bit more green. Maybe grab a touch of bright red and just pop in, just with your fan brush, a few little accents back here, some Indian yellow. Just some fun stuff like that. And then we're gonna take some Van Dyke Brown and dark sienna. Let's take them right on the fan brush. And we're just gonna throw in kind of some dirt around here. We'll see about this. Maybe a touch of titanium white and dark sienna, maybe some bright red. We'll just pop on a few more titanium white, yellow ochre. Some highlights. Yellow ochre, titanium white. Now, let's go back to our other fan brush that we were using and go right into the Indian yellow again. And then we're gonna thin that down because that's not gonna stick. It's a little too thick. Nice and thin, and we'll just kind of clean up the edges of this dirt path that we put out here. I want it to kind of stand out a little bit. Let's get some liquid white on the fan brush. Oh, that's messy. And we're gonna go into the yellow, cadmium yellow, Indian yellow, yellow ochre, whatever. Get a good bit of fun yellows on the brush, and then we're gonna finish off right around this path. In the path, push, get a different color slightly, maybe some over here. A little more in the shadows over here, so that's okay. We don't need too much over there, here. Now let's mix up just a little bit of blue into that and some greens, And then we'll go over here and add some shadows. Maybe a touch of red. Something over here. Just see wherever it needs to be brought together and bring it together. Maybe there's some grasses growing in there. Who knows? Now let's do maybe fan brush. We're gonna put in a little bit of water, like it's draining out from our snow mound that's here. There's just a couple low spots in this path that are going to be capturing some water. So let's see if we can put that in. I'm thinking we could probably use liquid white and some of this shadow blue mixture. It's got some purples and blues, and it's blue. Let's darken that a little. A nice thin blue-white texture. And we're going to bring some water around this way. Okay, wipe that off. Just keep moving the water. Definitely need a decent amount of paint on the bristles. Let's do that. Wipe off the excess. Let's get some titanium white, liquid white, and our blues, a little mountain mixture. It's a good color, some blue. And maybe the water is gonna come this way now, here. That way. Maybe there. It's just all melting into this here and going down that way. Maybe we've got some up here that's melting up, right? And then it is just going down. Maybe a little more this one. Now I want it brighter, just in a couple spots, so we get some liquid white, and we're going to go into this beige color. It's just dark sienna, a little yellow ochre, probably some Van Dyke, or some, yeah, dark sienna, bright red. So it's just a little bit brighter, not by much, but let's grab even a touch of titanium white. We kind of get like a medium texture on the brush, and we'll see, this should work. Get a good bit, bring it to the ends. We'll pull on right over the top of some of these. Just a little bit of crisp. maybe right out here too. Okay, I'm really liking this. I don't want to put too much and like overdo it. So let's bring in a little bit of our dark mixture now. We're going to bring this mountain mixture in with a fan brush just all the way across here where our snow is. This is a dirty brush, doesn't matter. We just want to get some of this blue in. Blue kind of mountain mixture. Nice and dark over here in the corner. Giving it some texture just because the snow is melted and there's going to be texture underneath it. But it's largely moving in this direction as it's like kind of melting downhill. And we'll just kind of bring that all the way down. Now let's do 1-inch brush, thick titanium white. And let's see if we can make this snow happen. More white. Just drag it down, maybe give it some movement. And then we just kind of wiggle in some more movement into these. We're just dragging nice thick titanium white paint kind of over the top of all this. Maybe right over here a little bit more. Maybe something like that. Give it whatever movement you think feels right and just go with it. I think that looks cool. I'm going to just kind of soften it a little bit with my 2-inch brush. And then I'm going to pull with my palette knife just a touch more in some areas like right up on the rocks and stuff. Maybe a little sheen right across some of the tops of these. Now, I'm going to use my palette knife out here. I really just want some of this water to be a little bit brighter. So I'm going to pull a little bit with my palette knife. And it kind of makes some of it look just a little bit shinier. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. There we go. Now right at the base, a little bit of dark. All right, and our last bit is going to be putting in some more flowers over here. So we're going to use all of our dark colors: Mountain Mixture, Alizarin Crimson, Sap Green, Phthalo Blue, Van Dyke Brown, Midnight Black, all of our dark colors. And we're going to build this last bit here. It's going to come all the way down. We're going to have some lovely flowers. We need a lot of dark for the light to show. So we put the dark in, and then we'll build it up from there. Now I really want, there's going to be a nice hill right here with some flowers on it. Then maybe we'll have another one right here. Something like that. Flowers, these are going to be flowers. Let's put in some big rocks. And then we'll finish off our flowers. Midnight Black, Van Dyke Brown, and just a touch of dark sienna, Alizarin Crimson. Right where we were using our Mountain Mixture, you can just scoop all that up. Just scrape that down into the scene there. Big flower here. Maybe we'll have some little bit of this rock left over, kind of showing over here. This is kind of mostly in the shadows, so we're going to use just this nice color that we made. Mix that with some titanium white. We want Van Dyke Brown and Midnight Black. A nice dark color, touch of blue. Marble that. Let's get a little bit more Mountain Mixture and marble that in. And then we'll cut off a roll of paint and build our little rocks out here. Shadow side first. Give them a little bit of a shake out. Maybe just pull some of those highlights into the back side, or those shadows. Now we mix up a lighter color. Let's go into these yellows. Let's pick up some yellow ochre and some dark sienna, bright red. Cut off a little roll of that, and we'll pop on a nice highlight on these rocks. Isn't that fun? Now we'll just kind of finish these off for a moment. We'll go into some greens and just close off these rocks. Let's set them down into the scene, so to speak. Just mixing some yellows and greens. Getting a basic idea of some grasses over here. And then we can kind of build on. Now for this bush over here, it's going to be a plant with flowers. So let's pick out kind of just a touch of our darks here. And we'll just do this a real simple way, where we throw in some dark. Then we're going to pick up right on the tip of the brush some bright red and dab it in. We should have all kinds, bigs and little. You can pull some out and then tap into it to get a different shape, to mix up the way you're dabbing. I like to get a little bit of Indian yellow to kind of mix with it. It just kind of changes the flavor a little bit. Now, a little touch of liquid white back into the bright red. And just in a few spots, brighten that up a little bit. But we're going to leave that. Maybe there's a couple of these plants just hidden around over here. And we can go ahead and just pop it in the background a little bit there. But a little bit goes a long way with these red bushes, so not too much. Let's leave it at that. Okay, let's fill this scene up with some flowers. Now, I want to clean off a big part on my palette because we're going to have some really special colors in here and I don't want them to get too muddy. So I'll just kind of clean that off there. Whatever. Okay, so we have the majority of the color that's all going to be coming down here in the foreground. This is all kind of like melting out, but over here we're more in the sun and there's just a bunch of flowers happening. And let's pick out our colors. And I'm feeling a little indecisive here, but we have to choose. I know I want to have some blue flowers, kind of like some bluebells, or I want to say lilac maybe. I don't know. There's a few other flowers that I'm trying to think of. I kind of have a general idea of what they look like in my head, but the name is not coming to me. But anyway, some alpine flowers. So I want to get a lot of my bright colors again. Let's do some titanium white. Oh, getting it just messy. Oh, more than I need. Getting paint on everything. I'm seeing a few things back here that I might change, but I'm just gonna move on for right now. And we're gonna do some of these flowers and plants in here. I think first we'll do some flowers over here. And I'm gonna use my script liner. I'm deciding. I only sort of thought this through. Okay, let's just look at we have Indian paintbrush, can be somewhere kind of down in here. And then some of our purples over here. And we have some more Indian paintbrush down here. So let's finish out this area. Gotta get it in the right order. Let's do maybe just some simple, I don't know, grasses. Then flowers. I think we need some blues and greens in here. I'm gonna put that over there again. That way I can see it. And oh my gosh, you guys are just watching me twiddle my thumbs basically because I don't know what to do yet next. Or I haven't decided. I kind of have some ideas. But I'm cleaning off my fan brush and I'm gonna mix up with my palette knife. Let's get some phthalo blue and alizarin crimson. Pick it up and flip it over. A little bit more crimson. There we go. Nice purple. We have our blue, we have our red, and then we're going to take a little bit of bright red and crimson together and just kind of create one more version. And then we can take some Indian yellow and bright red and do that. We're just kind of picking out a few colors that we want to use. They're all different flavors. We have blue. I want midnight black with blue. And then we have just blue. Okay, now there's kind of a lot going on here. Let's see. Okay. Flower colors. Let's do some little stem ideas. I think I want to do a little bit more midnight black over here on my palette. I really want these colors to stand out, so let's cross our fingers. mostly sort of clean fan brush. And I'm gonna get some green, blue, black. And then we're gonna make just a few directions here, kind of pushing up. Get a little bit more of that. And then we're just gonna angle a few of these. It's kind of hard to see, but I'm pushing the fan brush and angling it back in toward the center. Just giving it a push. Don't move it at all, because we're letting the fan of the brush push out some of these petals, and well, these will be all the leaves at the base of the plant. Then maybe right around the base you can kind of just throw in a little bit more to kind of fill that area in, and perhaps maybe I'm seeing maybe back here there's one of these as well. And on the top of this there's going to be purple, yeah, purple. Okay, I'm gonna leave this fan brush for our dark. Looks like I kind of already had a dark. Okay, now this is gonna be kind of two stages here. Liquid white first, a touch of that. And then we're gonna go into, we've got some black here. Let's do midnight black and liquid white, and then we can come over here and get some yellows. Just something. And we're gonna highlight a few of these. We need a little more yellow here, huh? Cadmium yellow to brighten it up. Make sure it's thin though, because it won't stick if it's not just a little bit thinner. And we're going for just a touch of highlight on this nice little flower bush here. And just tap right on the top edges. Maybe we'll have a little bit of grass, and then we can just kind of fill some of this in here. We're gonna put some more flowers in here, but we'll just get some of that going. Now, I think I'm gonna use a sable brush. Maybe, if I can get it. Get out of there. Ooh, looks like I didn't clean it. It's still soft. Maybe it was just from yesterday. Who knows? I don't remember using this yesterday, but I'm just getting piles of paper towels everywhere. Okay, over here we're doing, what are these flowers? These are little like bell shaped in a cluster going down, so that's helpful. Yeah, let's just paint it. I'm getting some dark purple, and then I'm going to just tap kind of a few. I'm making a like a little half moon maybe, trying to vary them up, but also they need to be directioned toward the stem. But they're in kind of like a little cone. So we'll just keep working a few of these. We need to get the dark in so that we can highlight it. And nothing will work if we don't have this dark. So we have to get the dark in. Just try and make it stick however you need to. It would be ideal if it was thick. So if it doesn't stick and you're pulling paint off, just pull a little bit of paint off and then come back. And now you'll have a prepped surface to go in there. That's fine. Let's do some up front. And before I run out of paint, I'm going to mix them up so that they can kind of match here. Phthalo blue and alizarin crimson. There we go. Save as much of that as you can. Maybe this zoom will help. I don't know. I'm going to try and stay out of the way. But I tried to zoom in just to see if I can give you a better idea of what I'm doing over here. It's not anything terribly specific. I want them all to be kind of heading in a similar direction. Maybe on this side they're tilting over. Let me just adjust that. And I can slow this down. Something, you know, something like that. Have to have the dark before we show the light. It won't show up. You won't be able to see it. And if we want these to be nice, awesome, bright flowers, we need to have a nice base for it. Nice dark purple. Okay, I think we'll have a couple more of these maybe over here. So let's just throw in a few tops maybe. And we can come back in and finish out the bottom in a minute. We can work backwards, it's okay. It doesn't matter. Maybe and then we can take our fan brush, go into our green midnight black. And just kind of make it as if they were there the whole time. Isn't that cool? Now, let's see if we can get these to have a nice highlight on them. Titanium white. And then we'll go right into our purple. And we're just going to lighten it until we get it to a nice, pretty color here. We'll add just a touch of bright red. Now, let's see if we can get some of this to kind of fill in and not cover all of the dark, but give us a better idea of the color of these flowers. Give them a little bit more dimension. Try and keep the color just slightly more favored toward the sun side. Grab a touch more titanium white, bright red, just a tiny bit. You start to pick up some dark and mix it in, and it's okay just to add a little bit more highlight to that. Now we're getting close here. Still kind of hard to see on the camera. Last step here is going to be liquid white into our purple, just using the same color basically this whole time, just lightening it more and more. And we're going to use this nice bright light color now, not too much. It needs to be thin so that it'll stick. Let's get these ones up here. You can still kind of direction those and just touch on them. But it has to be light. It has to be thin. Couple of these. Okay, I think the last touch on these, we should do just a tiny bit. Kind of like the inside of the flower. You might not see too many of them, but we can come up in a couple of these and just give them a tiny little bit of a sparkle. Right in the center. You'll only notice it if you're right up close. Okay, over here we're gonna do a slightly similar with different colors. We're going to go into alizarin crimson and our bright red. Get those mixed up together on the brush. And we're going to pick out our Indian paintbrush. Okay, I'm just going to keep using this alizarin crimson and bright red together. And I want to put in some dark base for these flowers. These are shorter. They're not as long as these purple flowers for the flower part, so don't make them quite as long. Let's do maybe, I'm going to make sure that they're going to stand out. If you pick up a bit of dark or this green, just wipe it off. This flower, if you crush it up or grind it, you can use it as a pigment. I think that's why they called it the paintbrush. I just realized I hadn't said anything in a little while, so I thought I would tell you that. Let's use some midnight black, sap green, and then just drag through a touch of yellow on one side. Dark, light. Sort of works. I'll stick with the dark for a minute. Some green and midnight black. They grow on these kind of leafy stalks. Just midnight black over here. We've got a lot of light. Maybe we have a couple more. Now we'll do some liquid white and yellow ochre, just on that same brush. Just mix into that, and then maybe we can highlight a couple of these. Maybe a little touch of cad yellow, not too much. I'm just popping on a touch onto the leaves. Clean the brush, and we'll go into our bright red. Get a touch of titanium white. And we'll just pop in some of our bright color. This has a little bit of Indian yellow in it. And if it doesn't stick, just add a little bit of liquid white. And we're going for a touch of highlight on these flowers. Okay, now I want to do some blues, blue flowers. Let's do these with the script liner. Thin down your paint, really thin. And then we can use some liquid white and our blue. And we're gonna put in, we're gonna push the brush. We're doing some blue flowers here. And we need to give them some stems. basically just covered them all up. I don't know what I was thinking. Let's try again. They're still there. It's okay. We can do a few. Maybe they'll be just different, like bluebell that's stacked or something. Let me just push up liquid white and your blues. I think I've done this flower before with you all. Let's get some more liquid white. Now, what did we do over here? Something like that. Now let's try maybe here. And these will be our last ones of this kind. Maybe we'll make them a little bit more purple, just to flavor them a little different. I don't know why I painted this one so sideways, but we gotta match it. Maybe it was extra windy one day when he was growing up and he just got a little bumped, or he's growing so tall that it got heavy and had so many flowers on it. I don't know. Now thin that down, lighten it a little. You can bring some of those petals, kind of connect them into the center a little bit here and there. Don't just leave them hanging out there. A little bit more light here. I hope you can still see this. I never know. Okay, flowers. Let's give these stems some leaves. We're going to have some grass right in the front here, but we just need to kind of throw in all this background stuff. Now, some magic. Let's go into some liquid white and cadmium yellow. And we're gonna do, let's see, I'm seeing some bright grasses down here. Maybe there's a couple up here. Maybe we can get a little bit over here just to kind of fill it out. We've got some other grasses. Just, they're always going to be there. So you can just kind of fill in a few, not too much. Uh-oh. That could have been really messy. Okay, now let's put some more red right down here. Script liner, maybe thin it down. And we can get a lighter version. Just give them some, give it an idea there. Maybe we've got some grasses, kind of closing those off down there. Then we can do, I think, a tiny bit more with the purple. Let's do this dark, medium dark, and then maybe some little kind of just hang down these little flowers. Sometimes maybe we have some daisies or something, making green, not yellow. Let's try that again. I was kind of actually going for a white, but anyway, off-white. Let's do white and a little bit of red. And then we can just get a good bit of that on this script liner. And where we have dark, we can put in just some tiny little petals. Just thin down my paint a little bit because it wasn't really sticking at all. That's okay though. Now it's working. Okay, now we can put in some more grasses and be about done. There's like a little gnat flying around. I think he was getting in front of the camera. That's so weird. Trying to ruin my tutorial Tuesday. What a turd. You're not gonna like getting stuck in my paints if that's what happens, Mr. Gnat. My goodness. I told him. Okay. Let's do just a touch Indian or cadmium yellow, just kind of give that guy a little bottom and that one a little bottom. Yep, I like it. Let's get some of this blue here and just do little touch-ups. And get a little bit more blue. What do we need? I think we can call this one. I probably should, but ooh, you know those big, like, I don't know, maybe yarrow, but I'm thinking something bigger. The big white flower that's slightly roundish, and it's just a big fluff. We need some of those. Okay, I like that. Now, give them some stems. just have to be there. They don't have to be perfect. Awesome. All right, I'm gonna sign it. It would be really cool if there was a butterfly in this, but I don't want to like mess one up. But, what if? I don't know. I don't even know. It would look like it for whatever reason, but okay, so we need a body. And he needs an underbody and then a wing. I guess he'll have a head and antennas. Then oh my gosh. Okay. What am I doing? Let's do black. Never drawn a butterfly before. This is hard. Okay, black. I'm just putting in the outline, I guess. And I'm gonna maybe make it like a monarch. They probably go into the Rocky Mountains a little bit. Pretty sure, but I'm not positive, so don't hate me for this. Yellow? Yeah, yellow and red. Nice, good orange. Strong orange. Okay. I have some thin orange. Okay, so we're just going to need to fill this in with the red, orange. And then we're going to come back with a thin black. has to be so thin. Little touch of blue. Cool it down. Now we need our edges. And then we'll get this bottom nice. There we go. And maybe we'll try that out of the danger zone. And then let's use a little bit of this. Now that it's nice and thin, we should be able to get it to stick. Now I need some white dots. That'll have to be it. Let's do, just make sure that this that's pretty cute. Let's do a little quickie right over here. Just throw it in there. You know it's there. All right, we are all done with this beautiful alpine scene, finished with an a monarch butterfly. First time I painted a butterfly. That was fun. It's not perfect, but you know what? We tried and we had a lot of fun, and that's all that matters. So thank you so much for joining me here again in the studio for Tutorial Tuesday, where I post a brand new oil painting tutorial every single Tuesday, and we watch it live on YouTube for the very first time together. I love having the Tutorial Tuesday with you all, where we can sit down and chat and like check in on dinner and all of that stuff. It's been a real blast, and I look forward to it every single week. Thank you all for being here with me. Please be sure to comment in the comment section below what your favorite part about this painting was. I love to hear your thoughts on it, and we'll see you next week. Smile and be happy, friends.